This episode is inspired by A to Z in Pricing, a master workbook that focuses on CODB, alternatives to CODB, setting up pricing packages, and so much more. This workbook has my brain poured into it with everything you'll ever need to know about properly pricing yourself to make money in the industry and have clients lined up at your door. This is part of the A to Z series featuring 3 different workbooks set to come out this summer. The A to Z in Pricing releases next Friday, July 5th.
Thank you for listening to the Mentor Project, where we discuss marketing, SEO, how to go full-time in your business, and so much more. Here's your host, Nicole Bruce.
Welcome, guys. Today's episode features a photography success guest, Emily Massingill. She runs her own small but very profitable photography company, taking over 40 weddings at an average of $3,500 per year. Today, she's on the show to talk to us about what we all need: free to low cost, unique marketing skills that has her schedule packed. Hey, Emily, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, just busy with work and kids.
Always. All
Yeah.
right. So let's start off the show by telling our listeners just a little bit about you. So let's go ahead and start talking about your business and just what you wanted to talk about on the show today.
Okay, I am the owner of Emily Michelle Photography. I am primarily a wedding photographer, but I also do some family sessions, newborn sessions, just stuff that kind of lights my creative fire every once in a while. But weddings, engagements, couples, boudoir, and bridal is my focus. I've been officially in business since 2017. And before that, I worked and did photography at a newspaper.
Okay.
Um, so I really enjoy I've always done photography pretty much my whole life. And that's really pretty much it. I do like 42 weddings a year. Um, and I feel like I've got it down to a science at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've only been in business since 2017?
Yes, yeah, on my own, like doing my own thing. So before that, I did a lot of photography for the newspaper I worked for. But yeah, officially by myself in 2017.
That's awesome. That's such a fast startup, honestly.
It is. I give a lot of credit to kind of my background and being able to work at the newspaper. They taught me a lot, and I got a lot of training there, and it helps, especially with like marketing and all of that stuff with them.
Yeah, so we have a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Obviously, it's everyone's dream to be full time and be really successful within the first 2 years. So I know that you mentioned you kind of do a lot. Honestly, you do like boudoir, you do family stuff, you do wedding stuff. When you're in the business, a lot of people say that having a niche is the way to go, but you're kind of all over the place. So, what do you feel as far as that goes? Do you feel like it's better to have a niche? Do you feel like it's better to just do your own thing? What do you think about that?
I do. I feel like it's better to have something that you focus on. So like weddings is really what I put my energy and my drive towards. That's what I really focus my money, my time, my energy on wedding photography and the things that go with weddings because it's hard to do weddings without engagement, bridals,
Hmm.
uh, boudoir because people want to book those as well. So I think it's good to pick one thing to focus on. I've been much more successful doing that than trying to be everything for everybody. But there's also nothing wrong with if you have a passion for, say fresh 48 photography. There's nothing wrong with doing them here and there. I think when you get asked, it does nothing but good for you. But yeah, I do think it is important to just pick a focus. But that's not to say you have to turn down other things that you want to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's definitely important to pick a focus as far as like marketing goes, just because marketing is it's just so time consuming.
It is.
So yeah, I definitely agree with that, and just pushing one of those things for
Yeah.
yourself.
And you don't have to, I think this like surprises people, but you don't have to post everything you do on your page.
Mhm.
I will do a session that I love, but it's not something that I specifically want to market for, and it never sees my photography page. And that's totally okay. You can do those sessions that you really love and want to do, but you don't have to post them. You can just post them on your personal page, post them wherever else, just don't post them on your business page.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we kind of talked a little bit about that with Victoria in the past few episodes. And she was saying, like if you want to focus on weddings that are more unique and not like church weddings, you
Yeah.
can still do church weddings. Like you don't have to turn them down, but don't post them on your page because then that's all you're going to end up doing.
Yeah, you attract what you post. So
Mhm.
you always want to keep that in mind kind of when you're doing your social media thing.
Yeah, definitely. So, as we're getting kind of on the topic of marketing, I know that when I came to you and asked you to be on the show, you had the idea of talking about how to really help people with marketing and kind of unique ways to market that we don't normally think of. So, can you go over what inspired you to talk about that topic in the first place?
Yes, I think for the longest time, marketing is was such a scary word to me.
Hmm.
Because so, everyone says, "How can I be successful? How can I have a bigger business?" And the answer is always marketing. And you're like, "Well, okay, but how?" And it can be really scary because it's such a broad term. And for a lot of people, marketing is just posting on Facebook, posting on social media. But it's way more than that. You can do so much more with marketing. I think most people get stuck and are like, oh, marketing is just social media, but it's definitely not. So you really hurt yourself by only, focusing on those things. And I think that's where I see most people put their energy into just social media
Right.
um, with their marketing, and it doesn't hurt you at all. But I don't think people don't realize how much good can come from other types of marketing. And so I've kind of figured that out over the years and put into a lot of good marketing outside of social media, and it's really made my business grow and be successful. And I'm super passionate about it because it's helped me a lot. And once you finally break out of that mindset, it's amazing what you can do with marketing after you decide that it's not just social media.
Yeah. So, that being said, since we're not focusing on social media today, which is exciting because we're breaking into something a little bit different, what is
Yeah.
your biggest source, would you say, of marketing that you probably wouldn't expect as like the normal marketing source?
So I tell people when they ask me, marketing in just one broad term is getting your name in front of people
Hmm.
whenever you can. So always just putting your name out there. It can be in a lot of different ways. So one thing that I do is anytime a bride books me, they'll book me for a wedding, and I immediately go online and I send them a gift. It's branded to my brand. It has Emily Michelle Photography on it. It's really pretty. It matches my brand and my style, and I send that to them. And so there's also a nice little note in there. So immediately they're like, wow, that's, over the top. That's awesome. It cost me about $30 per person. And that's really in the grand scheme of how much I charge for wedding. It's a drop in the bucket and it makes a lasting impression.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I do for like a really good marketing tool. It makes brides talk about you. And that's really what you want. You're getting your name out in front of people via someone else.
Yeah, definitely. And when we're talking about giving gifts too, remember that this is tax deductible. It's part of your business.
Yes, it is. It is
So,
all tax deductible up to a certain amount.
yeah,
Uh, you can't give like a $400 gift and deduct all of it, but
right.
if you give smaller ones, yes, it is tax deductible, and it does. It makes a lasting impression. I've had brides share me to all of their friends, and they haven't even done their engagement session with me, all because I sent them a gift and a card and a note. I booked one bride and I sent her a gift and she loved it. And I booked 4 other weddings from her before I even worked with her.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's
it
crazy.
was awesome. Yes, that $30 gift will really, pay for itself.
That's awesome. All right. So we have giving gifts, which is super personable, pretty easy, pretty affordable. So, and you're not really like putting out money out in front of getting a booking. You're just doing it
No,
once you get a booking. So,
yes,
there's really nothing to lose on it.
yes, that's once you're paid, once they're on your calendar, usually like in the next couple days even, I'll get that sent out. So they're still excited. It's still fresh on their mind.
Yeah,
Um,
so that's perfect. So, what other unique marketing options do you use?
so a big thing that I do is people often are like, "How do you do this?" But I do same day previews at all of our weddings. So a lot of people are like, "What? What is that?" So I went to Best Buy and I bought a 50-inch TV and I carried it around in my car and a table and a tablecloth, and when I get to a wedding, I set it up, like, by the bar in a corner or somewhere, and then I take pictures, I'm taking pictures throughout the day, and then during dinner, we usually get about a 30-minute dinner, I sit down and I edit about 100 photos from the beginning of the day.
All
It
right.
doesn't take long. I use Photo Mechanic. I love Photo Mechanic, and so I run through in Photo Mechanic. I edit them all, and I put them on that TV for the remainder of the reception, and I also put business cards out. That's a huge part of marketing. Think about how many people that you're seeing there at that wedding that are potentially going to get married. Um, it's huge, and so people walk by the table and they're like, "Oh, the photographer has that photos," and then they're like, "Oh my god, that's photos from today. That's photos from an hour ago."
Right.
Uh, so it makes a lasting impression, it makes people remember your name, it gives people an idea of what style you edit with, how you work, and it's been awesome. That's also been awesome for me.
Dang. Okay. Well, that is definitely a technique right there.
Yes, it's and it like, ever a lot of people say, "Well, I could never do that." You can. It's really not that difficult if you have the right tools.
Yeah.
You just have to have, like, a laptop, a good card reader, Photo Mechanic is huge, and then you just have to know how to batch edit in Lightroom, and you've
Mhm.
got it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
super super simple.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned that you edit all those in like half an hour and like 100 photos, guys. And that's totally possible. Like she said, you just have to have the right equipment. Batch editing will literally change your life.
Yes, life changing, and then it's also helpful because then you have, like, 3/4 of your previews done for social media for the next day.
Mhm.
So I also do, most of the time, previews within 24 to 48 hours, so they're not waiting weeks and weeks. So I have, since I've already edited, probably 100 photos, all I have left to do the next day on Sunday is to edit a few from the reception, and I have a sneak peek ready.
There you go. You're pretty much like halfway done.
Yes, and then basically you just go back, you have to cull down the rest and then edit it, and then you can have their stuff returned in, a few weeks.
Yeah. So, what is your return on like the entire wedding usually?
I tell people 6 to 8 weeks,
Okay.
but I do have 2 kids, and so I try to deliver earlier than that if I can, though.
Right. Yeah. As far as the edits go that you're actually doing at the wedding, is that usually your final edit or is it just kind of like an edit to show off and then you kind of like touch up afterwards?
90% of the time, that's my final edit. I've got my workflow down, like, pretty good. I have a custom preset that I use that's pretty on point for what I want.
Mhm.
All I have to do is I just apply that preset to all of my images, and then I go through and make white balance and exposure changes. And usually I'm pretty on point with it. There may be a few I have to go back and, like, lightly fix or do, like, object removal, but
Mhm.
for the most part, I would say that's 90% final edit.
That's awesome. All right. So we already have two good tips and they're both just like they're pretty easy, honestly. I mean, you're not risking anything. You're not paying hundreds of dollars for anything. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you do?
Just and just replying to customers, customer service. I think a lot of people don't think that's marketing, but it is
Yeah.
100%. You basically want to make all of your clients be um, just walking billboards for you. So it's important to reply to customers. It's important to get back to them in a timely manner. I think a lot of people kind of let that fall by the wayside. Like, yes, have business hours, but during those business hours, like, message your customers back.
Mhm.
I can't count the number of brides that have messaged me and been like, "Oh, we messaged 4 or 5 photographers and we haven't heard back and it's been a week."
Yep.
You have to be on point with your communication also while maintaining, your own life. But that's a huge marketing thing. It's like just being really good to your clients. You have to think every time you have an interaction with any client, how can I go above and beyond for this person?
Yeah.
It's either by getting back to them, either by picking up the phone and calling them if they have something they need to go over more in depth, doing extra favors for them. Sometimes if we shoot at a park or something like that, almost every time I'll cover their parking. It's in my contract that they cover all fees, but if it's like $5, be like, "Hey, you guys, I'm here. I covered your parking for you. Come on in. You're taken care of." Just little things like that. I think that a lot of people take for granted. Like I said, you just want to you want every client to be basically a walking billboard for you. So if they have a friend, you want them to just rave about you, like, "Oh my gosh, she's the best. She's awesome. She replies so fast. She's so sweet." Like I said, it's customer experience, but it's a huge part of marketing that people forget about, to just make a lasting impression on everyone you come in contact with. That's a little harder than the other two.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've noticed that as well with my own business is a lot of brides reply to you and they're like, "Oh dang, like you replied to me within like the first day, like nonetheless the first like hour that I
Yes.
messaged you." And it's terrible how so many businesses now just don't reply or I mean, reply a week later. Like it's crazy to me.
I set a personal goal for myself, to reply within 30 minutes. If they message me within business hours, I get to a stopping point in my day within 30 minutes, if not immediately,
Mhm.
just because I've been in the position where, I've messaged photographers and messaged, and you just don't hear back. And that makes me not want to recommend them, even though I've never worked with them.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's a huge part of marketing. I don't think people realize that the impression you make on people, when you work with them,
Yeah, definitely.
it is marketing.
So let me ask you this. Since I mean, we all use social media, do you usually interact with your clients on social media messaging or email?
I don't email a whole lot. I don't like email. I probably do that wrong. Um, I like Facebook Messenger. Text, really and truly, I will talk to the client whatever medium they're comfortable talking in.
Hmm.
So if they text me, I'll text them. It's fine. If they Facebook message me, I'll Facebook message them. It's fine. If they email me, we'll email. I'm not too picky about what medium I talk to them in. I keep everything pretty organized, with notes and stuff like that. So if you don't do that, it's probably best to keep it all in one spot.
Yeah,
But I do keep a hard copy of a client notebook where I write down their name, their inquiry date, what they inquired about, and where we were messaging. So I keep up with all of that.
perfect. Yeah, that's something that I kind of came across more recently was someone was talking about like, oh, how do you convert inquiries into bookings? You talk to the client on the platform that they inquired on. And that's something that's so easy, but yet it's not super common sense. Like sometimes we try and get them all in one place. And if they're like inquiring on Instagram, they're probably not gonna like go and email you because it's an extra step.
Yes, and you have about 5 minutes to make an impression on somebody
Hmm.
when they're looking for a wedding photographer, unless they just know your work and they're just in love with what you do, which is doesn't happen all the time, or I would even say half the time.
Yeah,
It's mostly people that are shopping that have never heard of you before. Um, so you have like 5 minutes to make an impression, and if you say, well, can you email me here? There goes, there goes a possible booking because they're not going to waste their time. They're just going to move on to the next person that's going to talk to them where they want to be talked to.
right.
So, yeah, it's important to stay organized with it, but I just talk to them on whatever medium that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that you do mostly weddings. Are you comfortable talking about your growth as far as pricing goes?
Yes, I started decently high. I don't think I've ever been super duper cheap. When I worked for the newspaper, I did a few weddings here and there for free, just to try it out, and those were the worst. I would not doing free weddings. But no, I started out probably, I think 1,500 was the lowest I've ever been for a wedding. My packages have involved more than my pricing, so now I'm charging around 3,500 for my most popular package. 2,000 right now is my bare bones, very minimum. I just have that there basically. And another good thing with marketing is you want to start your prices at something that's kind of in reach, but your goal is to never book that
Yep.
package. So I had that first package for 2,000. That way I can comment and be like, packages start at 2,000. But when someone messages you're never going to sell that package. You're going to upsell them. You're going to show them the value in your higher packages.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And once you have a relationship with them and they trust you, you can easily upsell to your packages that you actually want to provide. So, most people don't ever book that first package.
So that brings me to a question that is probably one of the biggest debates in photography businesses. Do you have your starting price on your website, no prices, or all your prices?
I have everything. Everything is laid out, my packages, and I do packages very different than most photographers. So I guess you would have to look at that to kind of understand what I mean. But
Right.
yes, everything is laid out, every price, everything that's included, everything. I Time is money, and me taking time, because I take a lot of time to reply to my inquiries. Again, I want to make an impression. I want to create a relationship with the people that inquire. It's huge. Again, part of marketing is really being a person to these people. So those inquiries that are messaging me price shopping, they are, I mean, it's kind of sad, but it's a waste of my time. So most of the time when people inquire with me, they've already seen my pricing. They already know that I'm within budget. They just want to talk to me to figure out if we're a good fit. And so it saves a lot of time on my end.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If you have your prices out already, people aren't going to be sorting through to get that number and then leave. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it makes it a
right.
little bit easier there.
Yes, and I can put more time. I feel like I can put more time into my inquiry or my inquiries, and make them a lot more personal, because I know the people that are messaging me, they already know that they can book me. They can afford to book me. It's just making that connection. So when I didn't have my prices on my website, I would get a lot of people that just loved me, but there was just no way they could afford me.
Hmm.
And so I would end up talking to people for 30, 45 minutes, even sometimes days and days and days, them trying to just find out a way to make it happen, and they just couldn't. And so it ended up being, a lot of time, which I don't mind, but it does help cut down like on those price shoppers and stuff, and putting tons of time into people that just they're not going to book you because they can't.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. As far as your packages go and upselling onto higher packages, what would be your biggest piece of advice for those that want to sell higher than their starting rate?
So like I said, you want to kind of have like not a lower starting rate. Like I said, mine is 2,000, and that's to get people kind of in the door,
Hmm.
within that budget. And then so my goal is to upsell to my $4,000 package. Um, and so once you kind of create a relationship with these people, you can, and that's really my biggest tip, is like create a relationship with the people you're talking to. So once they trust you, once they see your work, once they know that you're a professional and that your advice, I guess, is worthy.
Hmm.
I don't really know how to explain it. As long as once they know you and they look at you as a professional, they're going to trust your word. And when you say, hey, listen, you'd be much happier with this package with more time, with a second shooter, with an engagement session, so we get to know each other, so that you know how I pose and how I work. You're going to have better pictures on your wedding day for it. They're going to be like, you're right, because I know you and you're not going to lead me astray and I trust you. And then they're not gonna be scared to book your higher package. I think a lot of people want to book a lower package just because they're nervous. I think they're like, I don't. They've never, and you have to think, people who are booking wedding photography packages most of the time have never done this
Yeah.
before, never. Most are first marriages. If they're second marriages, sometimes they didn't even have a photographer their first
Mhm.
marriage. Sometimes they're wanting to go for a more expensive photographer. So you got to think people have never done this before. They have no trust. They have no clue, and we know how it works. But you forget that they don't. So really creating that trust with somebody, putting yourself in that position of being like an industry professional, knowing what you're talking about, and then recommending to them what they should do. Once they trust you, though, they usually are like, yeah, you're right. Let's do it.
Yeah. So how long do you think it usually takes to like build that trust so that you can actually upsell to those higher packages?
Usually I talk to people for a couple days. I'll get the initial inquiry. We'll talk. We'll kind of go over their wedding, their wants, their needs, kind of what they want. I don't do in person meetings ever anymore. So sometimes we'll FaceTime, sometimes we'll talk on the phone, we'll message back and forth. I always make it a point to ask them um, about their venue, about their details. Like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with venues. What venue are you guys using? And then we'll talk about their venue. And then I'll be like, yes, I've shot there. I love it. I love the owner. The lighting at this spot in this venue is awesome. You establish yourself as someone who knows the industry, and then I'll be like, okay, what designer are you using? And I'll be like, oh, we're using so and so, and then you talk to them about that designer, how you've worked with them, how they're awesome, how you did a wedding with them and they decorated like this, and you send them a few pictures and you just rave about, that's awesome, you picked this designer, I'm so excited, dream team, your venue and your designer, I would love to work with y'all. And you kind of, like I said, establish yourself as a professional in the industry. um, by just talking to these people about their wedding. It's not difficult. It's not. You just have to be, like I said, a people person.
Mhm.
And even people who aren't. I'm not. I'm not a people person at all. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier if you're doing it over text and phone call and stuff like that too. I think one of the biggest things that you just mentioned that we don't think about a lot is you're going to be professional about it and you're going to build that trust in a professional way, but you also want to be super super personable. Like you want
Yeah.
to, like you said, comment on all their vendors and just talk and rave about what they have planned and stuff like that. And not just be, you don't want to be that person that just replies and says like, "Hey, I'm so excited to capture your memories. Here is where you can find more information." So, it's really important because you have to remember these couples are looking at so many photographers. I think I probably looked at
Yes.
honestly like 60 people. It was insane. Um but they're looking at a ton of people and you want to find a way to stand out, and you don't have to be like straight professional because that's boring.
And everyone is gonna, most people are just professional,
Mhm.
and dry.
Yep.
You want to make them feel like they're having just the coolest wedding ever, and that you would just die to shoot it. It would just make your whole life.
Yeah.
And really, I don't have to pretend because I love what I do and I do get very excited, especially when people shoot at some of my favorite venues, work with vendors that I really love. I naturally am like, oh my God, yes, I would love it. Let's do it. And people get excited because I'm excited. And they're like, okay, well, she's really excited about shooting our wedding.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really all you have to do is just be really personable and, hopefully you really, really love what you do. So it doesn't matter if it's for a wedding or for a family session.
Yeah, you can apply that to
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. And that's so important. As we're kind of wrapping things up, do you have any more advice for us as far as unique marketing or pricing packages or how to be unique? Anything you want to leave us with?
Really just it is hard to stand out. But the entire time I've been doing photography, I've just looked at what everyone else is doing and I really just try to do the
Hmm.
opposite. Um, just trying to go against the grain and try new things. There's no like hard and fast rules in photography, in marketing and pricing and anything. You can do things different. My packages for weddings are completely different than any other I've ever seen, just because it's different. And a lot of brides book me. No, my packages are completely different than anybody's because I want to be different. I want to do things different. It's setting yourself apart, but it's hard to do But when you just take and just look at everyone else and be like, okay, well, I looked one day and I was like, everybody's doing like 6, 8, 10 hour
Mhm.
packages. What's completely different than that? And I was like, I'm not going to do hours at all. I'm not going to do it at all. And I don't do hourly packages. And then I looked, at people's marketing and I'm like, oh, it's all Facebook, it's Instagram, it's all of this. And I'm horrible with
Yeah,
Instagram and
me too.
Facebook. Most Yeah, it's bad. I would say like 90% of people come from word of mouth for me. And it's because I create like a really good client experience that's different and personable. It's just being different, having a different editing style, maybe, um, just having just a different outlook, maybe, just try to be different. I think that's the biggest thing. It's easier said than done because there's so many people um, that are doing photography. It's such a saturated market, but there are still ways you can be completely different.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we talked about a few episodes ago too. If you're in a saturated market, it usually means there's more clients as well. But the challenge is to be unique to get those clients.
Yeah,
So there's always clients out there. It's just how are you going to actually sink into their minds and be that person that they really want to hire over someone else. And the only way to do that is through being unique. And we've
right.
talked about that before as being called a competitive edge in the business industry. But so as we are finishing this up, I'd love to ask you just a few fun questions just to get to know you a little bit more personally.
Okay.
All right, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
All right, rom-coms or superhero movies?
Oh, I don't watch TV. I'm too busy to watch TV, so I guess neither. Literally, I never watch TV.
All right, beaches or mountains?
Oh man, we're going to St. Lucia in a week, so I want to say beaches, but I love the mountains. I love to travel, so both.
Okay, perfect. And your favorite ice cream?
Um, like cheesecake flavored ice cream. They have that
Mm.
at a shop down the road from my house, and it's
Yeah, I recently discovered Oreo cheesecake shakes at Sonic, I think it was. And
yeah.
oh my God, they were so good.
I'm on a huge diet, like clean eating thing, so I'm sad. I haven't had ice cream in so long.
All right, well, my bad. Okay, so I know we talked a lot about your business today, and some people listening might even want to use you as your wedding photographer, or if you start up mentoring in the future, just anything like that. Where would we find you if we want more information?
Like I said, my business name is Emily Michelle Photography. You can find me on Facebook. There's two of us. But I think mine is, I have a few more likes on my page. So you have to go and find I think it comes up as the most popular one. You can also go to www.emilymichellephotos.com. That's my website. That'll link you to all of my stuff. You can also email info@emilymichellephotos.com. And like I said, I try to check that pretty regularly. I think that's about it. I don't have Instagram, but I can't even tell you what it is or the last time I posted on it. Oh, so do not interview me for social media marketing. I'm not the one.
Deal. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about unique marketing and pricing and just the ways that we can be different to our clients.
Yes, and I always tell people at the end when I tell them about marketing stuff, there's no substitute for good work. So you have to have work to back up everything you do because you can market your booty off and
Mhm.
you have subpar work, it's not going to yield results for you. So invest in your education, invest in your equipment, and invest in yourself so that you can have the best work possible and then focus on all of that stuff.
Yep. Amen. And the reverse is true too. If you have amazing work, but you don't work your booty off at marketing, you're not going to get anywhere.
There has to be a balance. So
Yep.
you got to learn, you got to have good work, but you got to have good marketing skills. So you can't just throw yourself into one thing and expect it to work out.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show again. And to everyone listening, we'll see you guys next week. Remember that next Friday, July 5th, the A to Z and pricing workbook is being released, which will help you with everything that has to do with pricing your business, including CODB and package building. Like these podcasts, nothing is held back, so don't miss it. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening to The Mentor Project with Nicole Bruce. Tune in next time for more on marketing, SEO, and going full-time as a creative.